Hey, this is Gunsully for the podcast, The Indefensible Middle Ground, where we're discussing music and fun stuff that we like. And today I am with Brian Nelson Palmer. Sir, how are you today?
I am fantastic, Sully. Thanks for having me on the show, man. This is a treat.
Yeah, I'm very excited to break down all the stuff you do. Now, I met you through Fellowcraft, where you
Uh
are the very skilled drummer and occasionally rapper.
huh. Oh, you flatter me, sir. You
Yes.
flatter me.
Uh,
Yes, this is true. I do on occasion rap, although not that often. But then I also play the drums. Yes, absolutely.
before I get into all this other stuff, what did get you into rap?
Into rap? Oh
Yes.
man, I have been into hip hop and rap and R&B, and that was kind of what I feel like. I think I'd blame it on Usher. Honestly, I think I blame it on Usher. I started. It was You Make Me Wanna. I think the year was 1997, and it was that Usher song. And man, I was in high school at the time, and it was, oh God, that sounds. I loved that song, and then I just picked up on it from there, and I yeah. So I
Nice.
think I blame it all on Usher.
All right. Awesome. Well, that's uh, that's a good person to blame it on. You can't really go wrong with Usher. Um, any heroes when it comes to drumming?
Oh man, heroes when it comes to drumming. First one that comes to mind is the guy who he, I and his name escapes me right now, and that's really funny because you asked me heroes and I should know his name, and it's the drummer for the Dave Matthews Band,
Oh
and I'm
well.
blanking on his name right now. But he's probably one of the ones where I first started paying attention to the guy playing the drum set. He's one of the first, I would say.
I'm what do you have to say about a drummer that goes on to have his own band and then goes on to open up the anthem in fall 2017? Huh?
Oh, that drummer.
Do you like that
Yes, the
guy?
Dave Grohl drummer.
Yes.
Yes. I certainly look up to him, but what's funny is I somehow in the when I started playing drums way back in the day, I didn't make the connection. All those connections that you just made had not happened yet, and he wasn't on my radar yet. So I'm actually a Dave Grohl worshiper going back now and looking back. I really appreciate the talent that that man brings to the table and what his playing, but I didn't know about him at the time. So it's kind of one of those looking back in history. He's definitely someone I definitely admire.
Right. Well, and I feel like he's somebody you should admire, like in his persona. But then I heard he has to use a metronome track when he drums. So maybe not as much when he as a drummer as just as a person in general.
I maybe a little bit of both. There are times when metronome tracks are actually really important. So I guess it would depend on the circumstances.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I don't know. I don't know this stuff. So that's why I have to defer to the experts here. Um, so tell me about this radio thing. What are you doing on
Got
the
it.
radio?
So I starting back in July. It was July of 2016, and actually we're going to rewind even further. It was in March of 2016. I was a good friend in the music scene. Actually, it's the Perfectionist. If you like good cover bands in DC, it's the Perfectionist. They were on 96.7 FM on a radio show there, and I was a little jealous because I wanted Fellowcraft to be on the radio. And I looked up the show that they were on, and the show was only for female vocalists. So that meant that Fellowcraft could certainly not be on that show. And at that moment, I had a little bit of radio jealousy, and I was on the website for the station, and it said, yeah, I happened to see right at that moment the button that said "Submit an idea for a show." And out of jealousy, I clicked on the button, and I said, well, I'd have a show that was about all DC musicians, not just female vocalists. And then I completely forgot about that because it took me not even 3 minutes to fill out that little form. And then I hit submit and I didn't think anything about it. And then 2 months later, they contacted me and said, your idea's been approved. You're going to have a radio show. And at that point, it was like, oh my, really? Whoa, this is happening. Okay.
That's awesome.
And so then they put you through school and they teach you how to, because I didn't know the first thing about radio and I had never thought about being on the radio, but they teach you everything you need to know. And so then that is how the radio show started. So DC Music Rocks was born. The idea was born in May, or it was approved in May. And then after all of the education, I started July 5th of 2016.
That sounds pretty epic. That's an awesome. Okay. DC Music Rocks. The podcast.
Yes.
Okay. So, and everyone can check
so
the...
it's a live radio show, Tuesdays at 5:00 in the Washington, D.C. area. You're on 96.7 FM. That's the live show. And then afterwards, I do edit it and I make it into a podcast. And there is a much, much larger... It has a much larger following on the podcast. But the live radio show is certainly a lot of fun. So it ends up being a great combination. You've got the live show aspect, and then you've got everybody can tune in later at any time on their phones with podcasts, which are wonderful. So
awesome. I am a new subscriber to you, sir, and everyone can check the links in the description of this podcast. Also, this is going to be posted on our YouTube, so if you're watching this on YouTube, listening to the podcast on YouTube, go to the description and follow the links, or you could just search DC Music Rocks in your podcast addict or iTunes podcast, and it will pop right up, and it even says his name, Brian Nelson Palmer, on it. Or at least it did for me on Podcast Addict. Have you had that same experience?
It's interesting where it shows up and where it doesn't show up, but yes, it should be on there in most places. Yeah, nice. So that sounds about right. I'm glad that it worked out that way.
Absolutely. So the Perfectionists, obviously Fellowcraft. What other local bands have you bumped into while doing your podcast?
Well, this is one of the cool things that's happened with DC Music Rocks is that it started out as the podcast, and then I quickly realized that if I'm covering the local music scene, one of the biggest questions that people have is finding the local music scene is a challenge for many folks who aren't directly connected to it like I am. So as I started DC Music Rocks, I wanted a way to be able to refer people back to bands that I had covered previously. And so out of that came the idea for a DC artist database. And so if you go to dcmusicrocks.com, DC Music Rocks has actually grown into more than just a show, just a podcast. So on the website, if you're on dcmusicrocks.com, there is you can see the show, but then there is also the DC artist database. And every time I play a band on the show, I also add them. I create a profile for them in the database. And so you can search, if you like a certain genre of music, you can browse all the profiles of that particular genre. If you like hard rock or hip hop or R&B or whatever your flavor is, I've got lots of options for you in the database. And then you can obviously search by keyword too. So if you want to get something more specific like psychedelic or psychedelic rock, you can freely search the profiles on the database as well. So I've created a way for folks to find the local music. And then the other two things on the website are there's a local music calendar. I was really fortunate in that back in a little while ago now, it probably would have been around December I started in July, and in December I was able to get a grant from the city of DC to pay for some coders to develop the local music calendar. So I have it's an automated local music calendar that shows where the artists in my database that I've added. I've got about 300 now. So that's the direct answer to your question is I follow about 300 artists, and that number grows every week because every week I'm playing new artists that we've never heard or talked about on the show. And so the local music calendar actually displays when all of them are playing around town and in a 25-mile radius around the city. So mine is the only calendar that is exclusively for where the local music is happening around town. And so I've got one big list there. And then the one other thing on the website, I've got playlists as well. I've got more than 60 hours of music, different. I've got a workout playlist. I've got easy listening jams. I've started to develop genre playlists. So I've got a funk playlist that's pretty awesome. And so there's different ways. However you like to consume your music, I like to have it kind of just organized for you to just go find it. I'm trying to create a way for you to find the local music scene.
That's epic. I'm very excited about this. And did you say you have a funk playlist?
I do. I think right now the genres I've got so far are funk and, oh man, there was another one that I just posted. I think the hip hop playlist is up. So I'm now starting to add genre playlists to the website because some people like easy listening jams and a little bit of everything, but then some people are very specific to certain genres. So I want to give you DC's music however you prefer to get it. So yeah, I've got straight funk
awesome.
on a playlist.
Very awesome. And are you familiar with Chris Babulia and Dr. Badlove and the Remedies?
I do know Dr. Badlove and the
yes.
Remedies. Yeah, I've had them on the show. Actually, they're on the hip hop playlist we were just talking about, as well as some other ones. Every week when I add an artist to the show, I also go and add their music to whatever the appropriate kind of playlists are. So all of the playlists they don't overlap on each other. They're all different music. So if you listen to one, it's completely different than the other.
Have you gotten to see them live, like doing a club show?
Not yet. One of the best and worst parts of what I do with DC Music Rocks is the best part is that I get to experience some of the best freaking music every week. It's kind of incredible. Like it's almost like Christmas. I open up my email for DC Music Rocks and now the show is kind of self-sustaining. People are sending their music to me now to check out. And so I open up my email and there's this group that I've never heard of and they're freaking awesome. And that happens to me all the time. So that's cool. And along with that, I would love to go see all these bands in person, but with 300 bands, there's only so many days in a week and so many hours in a day. And with all of the other cool stuff that I'm doing and with Fellowcraft and the other things, I try to make it to one show a week. So I am constantly, my list of shows I want to go see is growing faster than I can go see shows. So I make it out at least once a week normally, but I haven't. That's all a long answer to tell you that no, I haven't seen specifically Dr. Badlove and the Remedies yet, but I have heard about them, and they are on my list of I can't wait to check out a show.
That's one of the things I have that's enjoyable is that I can just sort of occasionally bump into different stuff when I'm helping out. When I'm helping out tech here with the podcast, if we want to do something about gaming, we just do something about gaming and then do something about music the next week and books. So, but you are just so intensely immersed in the music scene. That's incredible, and I both envy you and am like, I can't imagine having that much. Just the deluge constantly. That's incredible.
It's really it's kind of one of those things where I'm a fairly organized person. And so one of the cool things about DC Music Rocks is like, how do you keep the deluge of information that you're talking about? I mean, I follow all of these bands on social media now. So every week I'm on the podcast on DC Music Rocks, I'm covering I've got announcements, I've got any new releases by local musicians because they're putting out music. So every week I've got new releases that I'm covering. If there's new music videos that have come out, I'll share those too. And then I've got it's the local DC shows to see, where I talk about the highlights from my calendar, because my calendar will have 50 shows for the upcoming week. And so I look at it and I'm like, all right, if I was going for the really big ones or the really good ones, if I wanted to recommend one, or that, because they're all so talented and they're so good. So like, which ones do I think let's toss those out as a good starting point. If people don't know anything about the music scene, then where's a good starting point? And so I put that out there too. And so basically it's been an interesting way to kind of organize the music scene. And as the information comes in, whether it's new videos or new songs or new releases or new artists that I haven't heard of, I've kind of got a system for it. All comes in, and then how do I share it? How do I organize it? But I've been successful thus far.
So
at keeping it together.
With DC music, now this is one of those immortal questions about the country, is whether or not the country is a melting pot or a stew. And I think that's the best question to ask about DC music. Do you see DC music as a melting pot or a stew? Do you see a lot of very innovative bands coming up that mix up their styles and genres? Or do you see the genres and styles becoming sort of more defined, but maybe getting a little bit of flavor from other genres?
I'm gonna one up you here, and I'm gonna tell you that it's a salad. It is a tossed salad.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And the reason I say that is because all of the ingredients are very different, but they do come together in this one city to have a little bit of everything. But when you look at them, you will sort of see the different flavors. So just like in a salad, the carrots don't all of a sudden blend with the lettuce that blends with the cheese that blends with but when you mix them together, they exist together. But when you look in, you will see that the different components and the different pieces of the salad they're all unique, but by the same token, they all go really well together in this local music scene. Actually, one of the things that people don't realize about DC is consistently voted in some of the magazines as one of the best local music scenes in the country. And that's something that it's one of the reasons that it's amazing to share. And so seeing all of it together, there really is a little bit of everything. Like I've limited the number of genres on my site. I keep it to a minimum number because my goal with the DC Music Rocks is to make the local music scene accessible to the normal person in the DC community who wants to check out the local music scene. I want to give them a way to find it that's not overwhelming or really easy to get into it, to find new music that they like. So I have a limited number of genres that I group everybody under, but then if you ask the musicians, they all have very different answers. And so if you were to look at all of the different genres that all of the artists claim, there's hundreds. But on my site, I try to keep it to, I think there's about 15, maybe 20. The ones that people recognize, we start there, and then you can break out from there.
All right, and this is awesome. I'm playing around on your site a little bit here. The local music calendar, which you have a wide diversity of locations now how do these get to you? Do they report to report to you about their stuff, or do you have to seek them out?
Well, one of the cool things about my calendar is I told you I had gotten that grant, and what it is the artists normally the artists that are really on top of it normally should be posting their shows in 3 places generally. This is a good place to start because there are so many places. There's so many calendars online. But the bottom line for an artist is you should certainly be posting on Facebook, like you got a Facebook event on your Facebook page. And then there's 2 other ones, Songkick and Bands in Town. And those 2 services, the way I was able to make my calendar is I used Bands in Town has an API. For those folks, I might go into detail here for the computer nerds out there who also love the music, you'll understand. But basically the bottom line is Bands in Town has their information available for you to get from them. And so my calendar goes to Bands in Town and it pulls the show information that all of these artists report to Bands in Town. And it pulls all of that information down and it organizes it by date, and it's got the location in there. So one of the things about my local music calendar that's kind of cool is there's a little filter drop down at the top, And if you click the little gray button, and you can specify the city or the state. So because one of the things that I know is that people in Maryland oftentimes don't go into DC, and they certainly don't go to Virginia, and vice
That's
versa.
not even
People like
in
to
this
be
area.
right. It's a thing, and people in DC often don't go outside the city, and it's this funny thing. So with this calendar, one of my requirements was that I wanted people to be able to find the shows that were near them. So now on my show, like on my calendar, if you're wondering what's happening in Arlington, Virginia, you can dial that in and find that information out, or you can pick it just state or by city. And so that's one thing. And then the other thing on the calendar is if you click the name of the band. So let's say you're looking at this whole list and you're like, wow, that location's really good for me, but I've never heard of that band. If you click that band name in the calendar, it will take you to their profile in my database. So you could really look down a list of shows and then look at their profiles and see which one you like, and then go see that band, having never seen or heard of that band before. So gives you a way to preview them, to find them.
I am obsessed with this page now. This is incredible. This is like you've made something more accessible than Google for local music. This is okay. The best way I could describe this to anybody listening and trying to, maybe you can't get to your computer and see what I'm talking about. If you've ever watched a movie where they go, computer, show me, and then they say something ridiculous and then the computer pops up, that's what he's made for local music. Zoom in, enhance, zoom in, enhance. That's this. I honestly just pulled up everything in Arlington. I'm looking at, there's a place right outside my door, and I'm looking at Katie Hargrove's going to be there in a couple weeks. I can just I know that now. This is exciting. This is wonderful. So yeah, everybody go check out DC Music Rocks.
That's awesome. That's my hope is that the local musicians in this town, I've gotten to know a lot of them especially now with the radio show too, but even from just being a musician as with Fellowcraft, I've gotten to meet a lot of them, and they're really talented, and there's some incredible music out there. And so I hope this calendar is a way for folks to go find some of those people. And if I can connect the community with the local musicians and help that connection happen, just like you and Katie Hargrove, I hope you go see her. And she's an awesome woman. When you meet her, say hi, tell her you heard about her on the DC Music Rocks calendar. She would totally get a kick out of that. And my God, please take a selfie and tag me in it, because I would love to see that too. That would be amazing. So, but regardless of that, whichever shows you go see, I hope it helps you find more of the music, because at this point, it's an adventure for me, because I didn't start out knowing 300 bands in the DC area, but I continue to find them, and I've got a queue of artists that I'm waiting to. I add them each week. That's kind of my quality control. I don't just automatically add an artist to the database. I play them on a show, and that's when I add them to the database. So every week I'm adding 3 to 5 new ones, and I've got a queue waiting to work into the database. So there's just so many more. They just keep coming. It's an amazing adventure that I'm on in music, which is my favorite kind of adventure.
That is epic. All right, I'm going to let you go. It is getting very late, and I know we both need to be up in the morning. So let me.
But if they're listening in the morning, it's a bright and shiny day, and I hope you have a fantastic day.
That's right. Thank you for keeping me non-temporal. Well, you have an event you need to tell me about here real quick.
And that would be the big thing. Yes. So we are hosting an event at the 930 Club. So the DC Music Rocks Festival is happening at the 930 Club on September 2nd. And I certainly invite everyone to be there. If you go to dcmusicrocks.com, the information about it is right on the homepage, or there's a little announcement bar at the top. It's on Facebook, obviously, on our Facebook page. You can see the event. But the really exciting thing is I get to bring some of this amazing local music. I've got 5 of some of the best local music bands that are going to be playing at the 930 Club on September 2nd. So it's the DC Music Rocks Festival. and I've got an MC for the evening. It's going to be a great show. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you are in the area, September 2nd, please do come by to the 930 Club. It's always a lot of fun at the 930 Club. Anyway, great venue. And if you're not in the area, if you know somebody who's into local music or into live music, please do share it with them or hit that share button. We would really appreciate it. And if we're able to get a good response for this one, my goal is to have this one be a great event and then make this an annual thing or a regular thing. Because
Absolutely.
that's the gift I want to give the local music scene too. Is playing the 930 Club is one of those tremendous honors for local musicians and for many musicians. 930 Club is one of the most revered venues on the East Coast. Really, I mean, it's known. This is where people go. The big names come to the 930 Club, and so I am really excited to bring the local bands to the 930 Club.
I think that's epic. The thought of playing that stage has got to be like throwing a pitch out at the Nats Park there. It's an amazing
Right?
stage. I saw Portugal the Man there earlier this year. Wonderful
Nice.
venue. Let me ask
Yeah.
you, do you have the 5 bands picked out, or is that
Yep.
still being filled in? Can you give them
Nope.
a shout out?
Absolutely. So these and all of these, by the way, are in that DC Artist database. So if you haven't ever heard of these, you can also find them there. But the 5 bands for this event, we have Thaylobleu, we have Hayley Fahey, she's an amazing female vocalist in the area, but she's also bringing the whole band. So we got the Hayley Fahey band, we've got Stone Driver, great rock band, we've got Throwing Plates, which is just an amazing, like almost a little more folky, but kind of a folk rock. Just Throwing Plates, they've got some incredible stuff out. And then the Split Seconds, which just a powerhouse rock and punk band, like a pop punk band. And so those 5 bands are going to put together to make one heck of a musical event.
Awesome. That's incredible. Okay, I've got them listed here. Check out thepodcast.com to see the links, to dcmusicrocks.com to see all these individual pages where they will be listed. So I'm very excited. I'm looking forward to this event. Everyone, please, if you are in the area, plan on attending this event. No matter where you are, if you are within the sound of our voices, subscribe to DC Music Rocks on iTunes or Podcast Addict or Feedburner, however you listen to podcasts. As well, subscribe to this podcast and also to this YouTube, the podcast, ThePodcaste on YouTube and ThePodcaste.com. Brian, do you want to give us a motivational punch out? Do you want to tell us how you live your life?
Yeah, I live my life without regrets, sir. So that's if you're looking at something or you're considering whether you're going to do something or not, and if you didn't do it, you would regret it, then you should do it. So live life without regrets. That would be my motivational punch out, sir.
Awesome. Cheers.